The internet has a new insult for content that looks finished but feels empty. AI-slop. You know the pattern. A blog post with perfect formatting and nothing to say. A LinkedIn paragraph that sounds motivational but could have been written for any company, any product, any week. An image that has the lighting of an ad campaign and the soul of a stock photo database. The lazy definition is, AI-slop is content made by AI. That definition is wrong. A human can write slop. A model can help produce something useful. The difference is not whether AI touched it. The difference is whether anyone brought intent, context, judgment, and accountability into the workflow. So the better definition is this. AI-slop is generated output disconnected from authorship. Nobody needed to know anything specific. Nobody had to make a real choice. Nobody had to verify the claim, sharpen the point, or decide why the thing should exist. The model produced plausible content, and the pipeline shipped it. Large language models are good at plausible continuation. That is the point. Given a prompt, they generate text that fits the surrounding pattern. But if the prompt is weak, the safest pattern is usually the average one. That is why so much AI writing has the same smell. It opens with a broad framing sentence. It explains that the topic is important or rapidly evolving. It gives 3 balanced points. It ends with a vague, optimistic conclusion. Nothing is exactly false, but nothing feels earned. The model is not trying to be boring. It is doing what the workflow asked for. It has no private experience to draw from. It has no stake in the claim. It has no reason to offend the average reader or violate the expected genre. So when context is thin, the output regresses toward the center of the distribution. This is the technical root of the slop feeling. Fluent language without specific pressure. The model is only half the system. The other half is the publishing loop around it. Platforms reward speed. Search rewards topical coverage. Social feeds reward frequency and engagement. Content teams are under pressure to publish more, faster, cheaper. Put a generative model inside that incentive structure, and the result is predictable. The system does not ask, is this true, specific, useful, or worth saying? It asks, can we produce another page, another post, another image, another variation? Google's spam policies already have language for this. Scaled content abuse is when pages are generated at volume primarily to manipulate search rankings, especially when they do not help users. That is a systems diagnosis. The problem is not automation by itself. The problem is automation connected to the wrong objective. If the reward is volume, you get volume. If the reward is cheap engagement, you get cheap engagement. If the reward is looking like content at a glance, you get content-shaped objects. There is also a deeper technical concern. Generated material can feed the next generation of models and tools. Model collapse research studies what happens when models are trained repeatedly on generated data. The concern is that the synthetic distribution can lose the tails of the original data. Rare details disappear. Weird examples disappear. Minority styles disappear. The system becomes smoother and less diverse over time. That maps cleanly onto the cultural complaint about slop. The internet becomes full of average text. Future systems learn from that average text. Then they produce even more average text. The strange, specific, lived-in parts of the distribution get harder to find. This does not mean synthetic data is always bad. Carefully filtered synthetic data can be useful, but recursive, low-quality, unmarked synthetic content is a pollution problem. The danger is not that every model suddenly breaks. The danger is gradual. The web becomes less useful as a source of human signal. A common reaction is, we need to detect AI content. Detection can help in some settings, but it is not the core fix. Watermarks can be removed or broken. Classifiers can be wrong. Provenance systems can say where something came from, but they cannot tell you whether it is good. C2PA. And content credentials are useful infrastructure. They can attach provenance to media. They can show that an image was edited, generated, captured, or signed by a source. That matters for trust. But provenance is not taste. A credentialed bad article is still a bad article. A clearly labeled AI image can still be empty. And a human-written SEO page can still be slop. So detection answers one question: where did this come from? Authenticity asks a harder question: why should anyone trust or care about it? The fix is not a magic prompt. It is a production stack. Start with intent. What is the point of the piece? What claim is it making? What should the viewer understand afterward? Then source material, notes, logs, interviews, papers, measurements, examples, screenshots, code, failures. The more real material the model has to work with, the less it has to invent a generic average. Then constraints. What can we say? What can we not say? What terms matter? What tone is wrong for this audience? What would make this feel fake? Then drafting. This is where the model is useful. It can compress messy notes, propose structure, surface weak claims, generate alternatives, and help you see the draft from another angle. Then critique and verification. Attack the draft. Where is it vague? Where is it padded? What claim needs a source? What sentence sounds like it could appear in 1,000 other posts? Then human edit. Not a ceremonial review, a real edit. Cut the bland line. Add the specific example. Keep the sentence that has a pulse. Prompts matter, but prompts are not authorship. A better prompt can reduce some obvious AI patterns. It can ask for fewer cliches, more concrete language, fewer generic transitions. That helps. But a prompt cannot manufacture missing knowledge. It cannot create a real point of view if the user has none. It cannot know the private example from last week's customer call unless someone provides it. It cannot take responsibility for the claim. This is where a lot of AI content workflows fail. They treat prompting as the whole craft. Prompting is a control surface. Authorship is the larger system around it. The person still has to choose the thesis, gather the raw material, decide what is true, decide what is boring, and decide what gets cut. If nobody does that work, the model fills the vacuum with fluent averages. The obvious AI strategy is to make more stuff. That advantage will not last. When everyone can generate more stops being interesting. The durable advantage is better inputs and better judgment. For creators, that means real notes, real taste, real examples, and the willingness to say something specific. Your edge is not that you can ask a model for a post. Everyone can do that. Your edge is what you know, what you notice, what you refuse to publish. For companies, anti-slop is operational. You need source repositories, style rules, factual review, provenance where it matters, and owners who are accountable for the final output. That sounds slower than prompt and publish. It is. But trust is slower than generation. If the audience learns that your output is just polished filler, every future piece starts with a credibility deficit. AI slop is not inevitable. It is what happens when generation is cheap, publishing is frictionless, and nobody is responsible for the result. The opposite is not refusing to use AI. The opposite is authorship. Use the model, but give it real material, give it constraints, make it argue with the draft, check the claims, cut the generic parts, add the example only you could know, put your name behind the final version. The future of good AI output is not pretending the machine was never involved. It is building workflows where the machine cannot erase the human signal.